Well, here we are, take two on response to Alex Dixon. So, first of all, most awkward thing you've done since high school. Oh, ouch. I hate to be a part of that. I understand this is it's awkward for everyone, but I really feel that this is going to help us to see each other in a very different way, instead of just text on a page. So it's great to see everybody, and I appreciate you making it through how awkward it is. So first, when you're talking about Leopold, absolutely this reciprocal health between the land and people is a very important part of it, and I'm glad you kind of picked up on that. That's really key to the land ethic, is being able to see that reciprocity. It would have been nice to hear some kind of application or example for that so that I've fully understood where you were coming from with it. I believe that you get it, but that would just be helpful for the future. And you use a lot of great examples later, so I know you're capable. So the McDonough and Brungart reading, you brought up greenwashing as a major thing, and it's a really good one. And your example is excellent of the computer screen where companies will cherry pick one thing that's really great about their product. Well, this one is this one is BPA free. This is lead free. This is whatever free. It reminds me of the kind of diet craze food packaging that went on for some time. I guess it still does in some ways, where products that are just full of sugar are labeled as fat-free, and vice versa, and it works the exact same way, where it's a marketing ploy. And part of it, I think, is especially bringing up computers in particular. There are so many horrible things inside of our computers, and we're constantly getting new ones because they have to be faster, etc. And they're not being built in such a way that they can be easily upgraded as far as the hardware is concerned, especially laptops, which is where a lot of things are moving. So it's a very difficult thing. So good point. In the Aguiman reading, policy. Oh boy, policy. Yeah, that's policy is a big deal, and it's a tough one. We have so many different competing ways to do things, and I'll be posting kind of a mini lecture about the interaction of policy and other things when I talk about environmental empowerment. But when you talk about getting people on board, I mean, that's a really big deal. Policy isn't just about making a policy or getting a policy in place. It's also about people in the public thinking it's a good idea, knowing what to do with it, and then some kind of enforcement too. That's why the San Francisco plan was more of a plan than anything else. Even when you have a policy, you have to have more guts behind it. You have to have people on board. So I think that's a great point you're making, as long as that's the point you're making. I think that's the point you're making. And also bringing, going back to McDonough and Braungart and the idea of recycling not being enough. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone kind of got that idea and realizes how important that is. But then you're mentioning how the importance of bringing it back to environmental justice and long-term sustainability. That it's not just about these products and this long-term use of resources. It also can be linked back into environmental justice in particular. I'd love to hear an example of that. I guess too late, but but it's a very good point. So you feel free to kind of finish that kind of thought, if you so desire. Not that you needed to say much more on it, but if you're wondering what I'm looking for. Your points on the crisis of design are right on, with great examples. That's a great example of, we recycle, but what does recycling mean? There are so many processes of, from the trucks coming in and burning fossil fuels, and then the chemicals used. Those things you mentioned are important, and then there's so much more. I mean, how many things do we recycle by sending them to China, having them disassembled, taken down into components, and then sent back again? I mean, it's just ludicrous. Is that really sustainable recycling? Yeah. So it's a tough thing to face, and the idea of designing things in such a way that they don't have to go through that process. And the book is called Cradle to Cradle, and that's really what they're referring to, is this idea that instead of having they used to talk about environmental standards that were cradle to grave, that you had to make sure that from the inception of any given product or chemical or whatever, all the way to when it was when it would go away, however that was, that you had to keep control over it. And their idea instead is to say, well, why not design it so that it just goes into a new cradle instead of being downcycled or having to be stored in a toxic dump or whatever. Anyway, great points on that. So great video. I look forward to seeing your next one. Great examples, which just makes me want to hear more of your examples. So feel free to throw in some more and to take your thoughts to wherever they go. I would like to hear more. So great.